Hello, 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 and welcome to the Cheap Seats. This is your FPL show. I've got Cyrus and Dean with me to discuss all things happening in Game Week 24. We haven't had a lot of Premier League games going on. It's been a bit of a break for you guys and want to watch AFCON. So now we're back at it on Tuesday. The deadline is Tuesday night at 8:15. Gents, I gotta confess, I keep on telling everybody about the deadline, and I forgot the deadline happened, and I logged in 10 minutes after the deadline, and I didn't make the transfers I wanted to make. So this time I've got yes, and I got 15 points.
15.
Wow, total.
1-5. It was so
rough.
bad.
That's
it was
rough.
so bad.
Wow. Sorry.
Yeah,
Paul. It's good. That's not
We're
good.
here for you. We're here for you.
Yeah.
Cyrus, how was your game? How was your last game week?
It was bad, but it wasn't that bad, apparently. I thought it was terrible. Then I was like, what, 15 points? Okay. I mean, I scored 36 points, which was terrible. I took some punts on a couple of double game week players that didn't pan out. And I also couldn't decide on a captain. And so I then went for Coutinho. That also worked out really well. So all in all, I was trying to set myself up for the next couple of weeks. I brought in the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, who also was not great. But the fact that I needed to get him back in and things like that really sort of curtailed the whole process of the game week. I am looking forward to the next ones because I can now fairly and safely feel good about letting go of the Chelsea players that I have because they're just a waste of time. But from an FPL perspective, but I do think that there's some really good bargains, and I can't wait to talk about stuff in the show.
Yes. Dean, how was your last game week 23?
So for me, it's still not over. I've still got King to play Burnley.
Don't we all?
We all have somebody.
We all have
that's
someone.
Going to be playing.
The best part of this week was like it was one of those weeks where double game week. You're like, cool. Have to take a punt on these Watford players. People brought in Dennis, bringing King. People playing Foster. Foster doesn't play. Dennis red card. It's just one of those weeks where you have to look and you just laugh because the chances of that happening are like next to nothing, and it goes and happens. So you kind of have to take your medicine. Everyone's had a terrible week. No one's alone in that. I don't see anyone like crushing it out there. So it just raises a little bit of wariness about can you now trust the double game week players going forward because we haven't had really good ones in the past, and normally that's what you look to back. So touch and go there, but yeah, also trying to build the squad. Brought in De Bruyne and he got a nice little 8 points, so saved it a little bit. Yeah, I'm on 31, so again, not crushing him.
Well, I say 15 because Emmanuel Dennis isn't playing, so like
you got
much.
Yeah.
So just to before we go on, remember this show is sponsored or partnered with Classic Shirts ZA at classicshirts.co.za. They have a really lovely catalog of shirts, classic retro shirts. This week's shirt of the week is the Germany-Italia 90 kit. They won the World Cup in this kit, so if you want to rediscover that all the glory of that moment or of that tournament, or if you're a Germany fan like I am, this is a must-have for you. We've got a discount code there, Cheap Seats 50. Please make sure you utilize it. Cyrus is a Germany fan like me, so we are probably going to be in the queue trying to buy that and using the discount code as well.
And it really works. It's a good discount code.
Yes, it is a very good discount code. Okay, now, gents, I'm going to go through, like we normally do, our transfers in, out, and our differentials and captains. So this week, I will start. I decided to go a lot more Leicester. I brought in Patson Daka for Emmanuel Dennis. He scored two goals in 2 games. I'm trying to find a lowly utilized stock. 1.8% managers own him, and trying to ride the wave up with Leicester. I've also got Kevin De Bruyne as a captain, Emmanuel Dennis. I'm sorry, that red card effectively, and the firing of Claudio Ranieri effectively tells me
no idea what's going to do.
I don't want to take any Watford risk. outside of that Bachmann goalkeeper, who is like the cheapest goalkeeper in the game. So for me, that's what I'm leaning towards. I have made more changes. I brought in Jota, who I don't understand why I took him out, but it was a whole too many Liverpool players that I had in the squad. I took out Bernardo for Kevin De Bruyne. So I kind of went through that. The only problem that I'm going to have is how do I integrate Salah back into the team, probably for Gameweek 25. I don't know if they're going to give him a break, because I assume they should like give him at least 2 weeks, give us time to kind of sort it out, and have a run with the side. But I played my wild card for this week because I know that I will swap out either KDB for Mo Salah. It's a simple swap. It's not going to be it's not going to be I need to move players up and down, because I don't trust Man City. I'd rather, I like KDB, and I think he's the guy to move forward this team forward. Watched them play last before the window closed, and KDB, it was against Chelsea, and KDB looked like he was the KDB of old. So I'm finally gonna bring him back in. Cyrus, I know Dele Alli is still in a Spurs shirt.
Yeah.
Yes,
but don't do this to me and Paul. It makes me sad. Showing me that
Just look away.
So you're bringing in Dele, you're taking out Mount and Rudiger. I didn't put Rudiger in there. It's just the Chelsea clean out, and we'll talk about that. Your differentials Mora and your captain's De Bruyne. So what's the thinking around getting rid of Chelsea players? Should we also get rid of our Chelsea players?
So let me ask you a question. When is the Club World Cup?
No.
It's this week.
So I think that it's just there are no Chelsea games in that for the first 2 weeks, for the next 2 weeks. So it just made sense to get rid of them, or if you want, you can store them on the bench. I feel like I'm in a cooking show. But the key thing for me was I don't know quite how much you're going to get out of the likes of Mason Mount, even when he is playing. He just doesn't seem to be a good enough point scorer at the moment. I do think that you have to trust that when a new manager comes into a team and they bring players in with them, they're going to play those players. And I think that's why I've gone with Dele Alli. It could have been Donny, and I'm even toying with maybe changing that closer to the deadline, because Donny is a little cheaper at 5.7 currently, and he'll definitely play. It's just a question of who will be starting. And I think that being who Frank Lampard is, and people have accused him of English bias when he was the Chelsea coach, it's more likely that Dele plays all of the games, and then Donny starts coming off the bench a little sooner than just the 70th or 80th
Don't
minute.
you think he will try play a Alan or Doucouré, Dele, and Donny midfield three?
Yeah,
or
that's
even
my particular thinking, depending on whether or not he decides he might want to go with a double pivot, right? Just that I don't know if he'll do that, because they have sort of been trying that with Alan and Andre Gomez, and that's worked with.
Oh, snap! They still have Andre Gomez.
Yeah, so this is the thing about Everton. That's
the
why
man's in the hospital bed all the time. So no point.
Yeah, he's but he is fit at present, or let's put it this way, he hasn't been ruled out. He's the kind of player who can definitely do a job if given license to do that. But I think what Frank might want to do is try to get the guys to be a little bit more expressive. So I don't think that they're going to be as defensive as they've been in certain, because Benitez is a pragmatic kind of coach. He'd rather not lose a game than go out and win a game. And I think Lampard is different. I think Lampard has showed that he wants to chase a game. He wants to really have a go. He wants to play good football. And if there's one thing that Everton fans want, is to see their team have a go. There haven't been a team that has a go in a very long time, right? And the last time they did that, they had a Lukaku leading the line. Now, when you look at it, they actually have one of the best strikers in the league in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, not giving them much service. Yes, he's had injury issues and all of that stuff, but if you allow him to be fed the ball the way he needs it to be, he could be one of the better players in the league again. And I do think that Everton are a sleeping giant. That's my personal opinion. Maybe it's because I like the color blue.
I just don't know what they do with the Obi and all the other. It feels like it feels like it's Everton's the first hotel when you realize you're about to become a has-been. You're gonna try and sit in that hotel before you end up at the lower teams.
The only thing I will say about Dele is, the
Yes,
only
Dean?
thing with Dele is, if the man can't unlock Harry Kane and Son, how is he going to unlock DCL and Richarlison?
So
you've got two of the best in the league that you can't unlock, and that's where he plays best, just behind. So
but I don't think that Dele Alli was given the ball in those spaces. When you look at the way Spurs played, and obviously you watch them a heck of a lot, right? Who were your key creators? It was generally Heung-min Son or Harry Kane would have the ball, and they'd come in from deep. So that negates anything that Dele Alli was doing on the ball in the first place. You get him on the ball more and allow him to play, because what a lot of these other coaches will do to him is say, you're not doing your job. And Conte is a stickler for that. We're not seeing you come back. We're not seeing you track back. We're not seeing you do this. Mourinho was the same, right? And Dele really played to his absolute best potential when he wasn't being absolutely hammered by the coach.
But also when Eriksen was there, that's when Dele played the best, when he had a proper playmaker. Yes, he needs a proper number 10, so that, because Dele is not a number 10, and that's what some people think. He plays just behind the striker, ahead of the 10, and that's where
he could play the Lampard role, right? And in essence, that's what you want. Late arrivals into the box, has a good shot in him, fairly good header. So that's why I think that Lampard is the kind of coach who could potentially get the most out of him. And that's why I've not given up on Dele Alli yet. Yes, Everton might be the last chance saloon, the Hotel California, as you were calling it, Paul. But I think that looking at the players that they have a really good chance of going on a massive run of wins. And some potentially really disappointing losses. But I think that they'll be a lot more exciting as a team going forward. And then Lucas Moura, because there's been so many midfield exits, will have a heck of a lot more game time under Conte.
And Son's injured as well.
Exactly.
He should be back for the next game week, but we'll see. Just touch and go. But yeah, Lucas, good choice.
Dean, you went the other way to everybody else, and maybe that's the reason why you're at the top of the log. You went and brought in Bruno Fernandes, and you transferred out Mo Salah, which we're going to talk about. You've gotten Mark Wood in, as
Mark Wood.
I don't know if you've got
Chris Wood.
Oh, Chris Wood. Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry. The cricket is Mark Wood. I do apologize. And you've got Kevin De Bruyne as your captain. Mo Salah out now when he's coming back on Monday.
So if Salah or if Egypt lost against Morocco on the weekend, I would have left Salah. He would have been back. The problem is Salah's going to be at AFCON now until the 6th, because that's when, even if they don't win the semi, they play the third place playoff, they'll be in there until the 6th. The game week deadline's the 8th, which means the earliest he's getting back into England is probably the 7th. All right. You don't know now. Can Salah walk straight out of Egypt and into Liverpool? Absolutely. The man's an absolute beast. There's no one that's starting that. But you would like to think that he hopefully gives him a bit of a break. Or I think he deserves a break, at least a week, right? So then you don't want to have Salah on your team when he's not playing, obviously. Especially when there's a lot of good fixtures coming around for the other guys. So my thinking behind it is, if Salah was going to make it to the final day of AFCON, I would ship him out. If he didn't, I would leave him in. So now that he's there, taking him out, and the reason why I'm bringing in Bruno is, Rolf has said that he needs to play with three midfielders. He needs to play with McFred and then Bruno. That's when they play the best. So Bruno's game time is guaranteed now. So Bruno's always going to play. And they play better when Bruno plays. So having Bruno in, I didn't want to spend the money on Ronaldo because it's just harder to get Ronaldo out and then get Salah in, because Salah will definitely come in. But Bruno, for now, is a good short punt. They got Burnley this weekend, which they could go and score a lot of goals, Man United. And then they've got a double with Southampton and Brighton. Brighton touch and go, but a double game week, again, you can't ignore. And Bruno's playing really well lately. So I'm only going to get Salah back in for game week 26 at the moment, from what it looks like, which isn't a bad time to get him back, because they go on a decent run and they play Norwich in game week 26 is when you're going to probably bring Salah back in. Captain Salah, they're going to run rampant against Norwich. So that's the thinking behind Bruno. Then in terms of differential, Chris Wood, Newcastle. We spoke about it in the previous show. Newcastle have added really well in the transfer window. They've got players that can now look to create going forward, and Chris Wood can get on those headers or can get on those crosses which Trippier or Target can bring in, some of those through balls. So Chris Wood is really cheap, and I think Newcastle don't have a difficult game this week. I just want to make sure that I'm not that I'm not lying to the people out there.
I think you were lying.
No, they got Everton.
Every game
they have.
Yeah.
They got Everton, and Everton's defense is terrible, and I don't.
But what about the new manager bounce?
It doesn't exist anymore. It's a decent punt, and he played the full 90 in the previous game, which is what you wanted to see first, because you didn't know if he was going to play.
Yeah,
I think Wilson was injured, but you didn't know if he wanted to play like say Maximum up front or Joe Linton up front, which obviously he was playing in defense. Yeah. But he's a decent punt, and then Captain De Bruyne. Brentford this week. Brentford are in a whole host of troubles. They strikers saying certain words about their team.
So they signed Christian Eriksen.
Which is really good for Eriksen. I'm really happy for him. And he could be a decent punt in that Brentford team. But health-wise, you don't know how he's gonna if he's gonna walk in, play 90. If he's not, then probably not. But it's really good for Eriksen. Brentford, though, are looking like they're up for the taking. De Bruyne is on form. They're playing at the Etihad, so it's going to be good.
Yes, it's going to be good. So one last question before we go. Are there any new signings that people need to look out for, guys who've moved in, that you are saying should go into the FPL teams? For instance, Bruno Guimaraes is 5.0. I wouldn't necessarily touch him if you're looking for someone who's sitting deep.
A point scorer,
but he can assist and score. He can assist. And so it's from a value perspective, I think his price point is slightly lower than what I expected. Anybody else in that situation where you're like, oh no, watch out for this guy?
So I think none of the top 6 teams or top 4 teams really added game changers. So Liverpool added that Luis guy from Porto, but he's not going to take Salah's place or Mane's place once they're back from AFCON. So City didn't add anyone except for that River Plate striker, but he went back on loan. Chelsea never added anyone. So from a Spurs perspective, I also wouldn't put money on Bentancur or Kulusevski. You don't know if they're going to play or not. So you're looking at some of those lower teams, and I know we mentioned it on last week's show, but for me, Coutinho is still someone to look out for in that Villa squad. Villa's got a really good run of games. He's looking like he's playing with Buendia, which I thought he would be a like for like, but playing with him, it's Coutinho. We know what he can do. So he's definitely still one on the target. But other than that, I would be touch and go. I mean, Newcastle's definitely worth a punt, like Chris Wood, maybe even Matt Target, Trippier, even if you're looking for some real differentials. But I wouldn't say there's anyone that like stands out that can't wait to get into my FPL team.
Okay. Cyrus, do you have anybody that you're like, wait, so-and-so, like vote Berghorst of Burnley, 50 and up? I don't know.
So, what nation does he represent again?
Vote Berghorst, Germany.
Yes. So, let's look at one of Germany's neighbors. And we're going back to Everton. I think Donny van der Beek is not bad. How's that for making a link?
Yeah.
I think the thing for me is when you look at the price point that Donny comes in at Everton, he's at 5.2. That's not terrible. And I think he's somebody who will also play some games. I'm not saying get him into your starting lineup, but I do think that if you have him on your bench and able to bring him in and out, you're getting him at a fairly good price point. And I think he's got a real point to prove. And that's something that I think Dele Alli and Donny van der Beek have in common when you look at them in that Everton team. So I think Van der Beek is one that definitely look at, and potentially, and I'm staying at Everton here, El Ghazi, who
so you do know you're allowed 3 Everton players. You've already said Dele,
I've only
Al
said
Ghazi,
three.
Dodi, and Al Ghazi. Okay.
Yeah, it's three. You don't have to have all of them, but if you're looking for one of those three works. I've gone with Delhi because I kind of like the kid. Maybe it's his MK Dons links, that really great club. But I do think that El Ghazi is also another one who people should keep an eye on because he's better than people know because they've not watched a lot of Villa games.
Villa, yeah.
And if there's one thing I've always liked, and he's had a good season though, so I hate to be dumping on him, but Andros Townsend is just not that guy. He's generally one of those guys who's like, he's really quick, and he's used that as the reason why he gets to play games. Even the likes of Alex Iwobi, I mean, he has his moments, but I don't think he's going to be it. And I think that El Ghazi could be the other midfielder to do something at Everton, and at 5.6, that's more than Donny van der Beek. But I do think that he'll get a lot more game time because he covers.
They're just going to have a team of midfielders, though. That's all Everton are going to have.
Basically, just
everyone's a midfielder.
And everyone together, and then you'll just have one or two guys trying to get the ball out to Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Okay. I'd say look at Christian Eriksen to see how Brentford does, but it's Brentford.
But that's because you're a Brentford fan, and Paul.
No, I have a soft spot for them, like Size has a soft spot for Everton. Maybe I like the red and white. But it's going to be intriguing to see how they utilize Christian Eriksen going forward, because that could be a place of value in an environment. Yes, it's a dumpster fire. And they've gotten a goalkeeper now, so it should be fine.
Oh, did they?
Jonas Lossel. But watch how they get Eriksen in there, because
I mean Eriksen could unlock Mbeumo and Johnny.
Yeah,
exactly.
He really could.
And
easy days.
And the set pieces as well. So you have James
Ward 2.0.
So that's something that I'm looking out for.
That's a really good shot. Because if there's something that a lot of these smaller teams don't have, is a real creator, somebody who can really come out there and unlock teams. And to have the likes of Christian Eriksen, who has been at the top of world football for a long time, is a really great thing. And I mean, yes, his playing time might be curtailed a little bit, but when he is on, he can do stuff. He's got proper magic feet.
I just looked at his profile on FPL, and it's still got him in a Spurs shirt.
What's the price?
5.5. 5.5 isn't bad. And Brentford, so they play City this weekend, so don't do it. And then they got Palace, Arsenal, which is an easy game, and then Newcastle, Norwich, and Burnley, which is not a bad run of fixtures. So if
they're teams that they should beat. So
if he walks in and plays 90 against City, it's a very good punt on Eriksen.
He's not playing 90.
He won't
even if he plays 60. Even if he plays 60.
I just need him to give me Juan Roman Riquelme at the back end of his career, where he just sits in that midfield, pulls the strings, doesn't need to run much. He's got Onyeka behind him and does the things. That's all we need from Christian Eriksen.
Well, let's see.
Fair enough.
Yes. On that note, thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the FPL week and the Premier League that's starting on Tuesday. Remember, that deadline is Tuesday night for myself. Remember, Paul, Tuesday night, 8:15. But outside of that, have a great week. Enjoy the sporting weekend and the week ahead. And from the Cheap Seats team, goodbye, good night, and lesale kakahiso.